to what's happening with this situation. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It's not that I didn't want to. At that point, I was so emotionally drained from that situation. I was drained. And I think that's something else that needs to be acknowledged when we're talking about why don't people come forward sooner and things like that. Sometimes we try, we say what we have to say, we get beat down so much that after all of that, we're tired. We don't want to talk about it no more. We just want to move on. I don't
Was
know if
that
that
the
makes sense.
network
You
that
know
came
what
back
though?
to
Can I
you?
say something?
Was that the network that came back to you after the fact? Venus?
No. It wasn't a network. They some situation happened with with the production Big Fish. I think it was like the production company did something and VH1 cut the cord on them with some situation with some other show they had going on, Live PD or something.
Okay.
So Black Ink, I don't think Black Ink is with VH1 anymore, but when they still were with them, and you know, when these blogs were covering a lot of like Black Ink's promo, like on Shade Room and things like that, they pay these blogs off. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, anything you see with these shows, like if you keep seeing the same redundant, you know, things being posted about some of these celebrities and some of these like musical artists, that's because it's being pushed that way. Nobody cares about them. They know that. That's why they put the promo out there, so they're relevant again. So the people that was circling back to me were some of these blogs, because after I went on Angela Yee's podcast about my situation that happened with Caesar and the disrespect that I encountered, and after Duchess went on, I think she went on the Breakfast Club, and she had all those receipts. She had a stack of receipts.
I remember that.
Like, thank you. She had a stack of receipts, and she was like, I can prove everything I'm about to say. I have police reports, blah, blah, blah. And then they asked Duchess, did he put his hands on you? And she froze. I don't know if everybody remembers that interview. If you don't, like, please go back and watch it. Like, she froze.
I remember it.
And then she went on her Instagram and she did confirm that he put his hands on her, and people were dragging her. I remember talking, me and Duchess were on like FaceTime. We were just talking about it. This woman was crying and she was just like, you know what, sis, I'm gonna just move on with my life, because no matter what I say, nobody's gonna believe me. It gets tiring telling the same story, and people are just like, you're just lying. You're just looking for clout. You're just looking for attention. This man owes me money to this day, and no, I'm not letting off of this lawsuit. His friends, Caesar's friends, were trying to talk to me, telling me to drop the lawsuit, trying to intimidate me and shit. I'm not dropping shit. Whenever the public finds out, they find out. That's just where I am with it. Legally, I'm going to keep pushing forward. But as far as like just continue to peddle this story to blogs, hoping they cover it, these blogs don't give a fuck, and that's they are a part of the problem.
That's
it's not
right.
just that people.
Period.
It's not just
something?
that people don't care. It's not that just Black people just don't care to hear about the stories. A lot of these blogs actively help suppress the stories that people need to hear, and they're part of the problem.
But sometimes,
That's a fact.
sometimes
Hold
I feel
on.
like
Before you jump in real quick, I just want everybody that's on the stage right now, if you don't have anything to input right now, respectfully, can you please move yourself to the audience so that we could try to bring some more people up here and reset the stage so that more people can voice their opinions on this? Thank you, guys. You can continue.
Also, don't forget to follow the
I
moderators.
feel like people.
And follow the moderators. Follow the moderators.
And Jay.
Hello?
Thank y'all. Hey,
And
girl.
Jay.
I think a couple of different things.
Go ahead, keep going.
I feel like a couple of different things need to come into play. I mean, yes, I feel like it's six in one hand and half a dozen in the other. So, of course, you have the person that's doing what they're doing that obviously need to be handled. But then it's so many different facets to what's going on with the victims. Like, you don't know how the victims have grown up, where certain behavior, they see certain things certain ways. Because I know a few people, a matter of fact, I know somebody that has dealt with him personally on a consistent basis with his wife. And it's not always as cut and dry as, they shouldn't have put themselves in that position. If you are living that life of being an escort, that's your business. That's what you do. So there's certain things that come along with that lifestyle that are acceptable to you at that moment when you're conducting business. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's also the aspect of I think the issue is that when women come out one by one and say, oh, this happened to me, and they bring it to the sources that are able to hush it up, that's part of the problem. Because if you know that something is, like the young lady said, the blogs are not for you, it's for the people that's got the paper. Okay, well then, instead of going to the blogs, how about taking it to CNN? That's a bigger form than these blogs. Like, it's other things that can be done, eh, without subjecting yourself to the normal ridicule of the traditional quote unquote victim. And I'm only saying quote unquote because we don't know what the situation really is.
That's not
I didn't
100%
get
facts,
it.
though. I'm sorry.
Mm.
That's not 100% facts because, okay, my experience, and I'm just speaking about me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. This is just my opinion. This does not represent anybody in the room. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Okay. When I first told my story about just me, my story with Black Ink and dealing with Caesar and the money he owed me and the emotional abuse working there and everything like that, you can go to blogs, you can go to CNN, you can go to whatever platform newspaper you want to. If it doesn't have a certain selling appeal, they're not covering your story. So even if you have all the documents to prove, you can prove that, maybe it's an abuse situation, maybe it's a rape allegation. There are certain things that newspapers will peddle and will cover, and then there's certain things that they won't. So if it's an allegation and it's not, you haven't uh you know file the police report, for example, or you don't have like paper trail, they're less likely to believe you or want to cover the story. And it's also about who do they want to take down and who can they afford to take down. There are certain people that a lot of these blogs and a lot of these newspapers and platforms, they legally cannot afford to even run a story because they may be taken down by their team. And a lot of this is not about, if you should just go somewhere else, go to a different media source or go to a different platform and tell your story. Social media has made it where like we can just post our story, but like relying on, these media outlets to cover it before we do all that work, like it doesn't happen as easily as a lot of you think it does. So I wish some of y'all would take that out of the equation because it really doesn't happen like that.
I got one thought to throw out there, then I'm gonna exit the stage. I think that we need to look at our communities again, because I'm making it a community issue, and start to figure out exactly where we need to restructure value. Because if we place value in success and money because we are economically disadvantaged, that doesn't mean that the people who have money and success are good people. So part of that is recreating where we value people. If you got a man who is in a relationship or in a marriage and it's public, but you see him out there doing things, just because he makes money does not make him a leader or a voice in your community if he's not even maintaining the foundation that he has in his home. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with T.I. I mean, it's all alleged, but I'm just saying when we look at the people that are positioned as the quote unquote leaders of the voices of our community, whether we chose them or not, because a lot of times we not. We looking at the music industry, which is not owned by Black people. It's owned by the Jewish media. And I mean, the Jewish corporations that pick and choose what music or what leaders we should have.
Right.
But if we realize that that is not a part of the core of our culture, then we shouldn't place value in those people and those things just because they have money. So the
Big
relationship
facts.
that Black people need to have with themselves about money, because we're still talking about women who are maneuvering in a sexual workspace or in a space because they're trying to access that dollar that puts them at a higher risk. You feel me? We still talking about people who have money and want to feel like because they got money, they could get away with what they want to do because they have money. So if the core in our communities is we need to stop letting niggas get passes because they got money, then we need to start this
Facts.
from the ground up, because there's mad people committing crimes, disrespecting women, but they throw parties. All the bitches, scroll a bit there, we got mad bitches pulling up. These are the guys who do it's, and it's so much toxicity in our communities because we just pass it way before we get to Tiny and T.I. In our regular neighborhoods, dude selling drugs, but he wilding on chicks, or dude works downtown in a nice job at the bank, but he cheating on his wife with this girl. I don't know where you guys fit with your morality with sin and where God comes in a place with some of these things, but if we continue to move further further into the world, that's when these things happen. And I'm not holier than thou than none of us, but I'm honest enough to say, if I am going to compete in an industry that does not have morals, because we see it's never been presented, then that means that I have to be prepared for the harsh realities of it. And until we create new industries that don't have those things, then we got to ask ourselves, do we want to be a part of it? Those women had a choice to go to be a part of that. Was what happened to them wrong? 100%. But again, that is again a dice roll of operating in a space that is of sin, that is not righteous, that is not of moral valid. When we talk about a man and a woman who are married, they're still married. So I'm not trying to become a preacher, but my last point is, as a community, if a man is not being stand up with the relationship he has, if he's not being stand up with the community he comes from, then we got to stop making it cool. It's a bunch of dudes who swipe in, who got all this money, but they don't do nothing for the neighborhood. But they popping though, right? They got all the followers. They on the gram posting up mad money, but they don't do nothing for nobody but they self. And they be hitting on women, wilding on women, but they pay for chicks, they pay for this, and they cool. They the man. They got all these followers. And they throw a music video and everybody's in it. And then we get surprised when the dude go down for this. When it's somebody kicking a girl in the hallway, when it's you get a video of stories of things happening. That's because we continue to place our value in success. People who have success, what the fuck is that? A lot of sickness is in those spaces. When we start going higher up that totem pole, when you get into them Hollywood hills, when you start going overseas and start to see who operates at that highest level of money and power and success, that's where sex trafficking comes in. That's an organized crime. That's when organ selling, the adrenaline shit that they doing
That's
with
what
our
we were
kids.
saying
Like,
earlier.
that's
That's what we were
real
saying
stuff.
earlier.
So we got to start this from a basic level to say, let's stop putting our value in this money, because we are melanated people who had dynasties and we existed way before this continent was even here. So let's remove ourselves from some of these things, or at least know how to play the game when we playing in them. But we trying to add morality to some shit that ain't never been moral. It ain't never been. So let's recreate the system or not playing it. But this shit, that's it.
And remember that you don't know
That's real.
people. Just because you see these people on TV, they show you this snippet that's cut and chopped up and edited. You don't know these damn people.
You don't know what's going on in the background at all. You don't know if they mess up, you don't know what's about to happen. It
Yeah,
may
then
look
you
good
see
on
how
the
these people
screen, but it's
treat
like
their
you don't know.
kids. They don't treat their kids right. You got to look. That's true. Like, you see what's on the blogs and stuff. These people might not be good people.
Right. They could post all they want to, but at the end of the day, you never know. Like, you just never know.
Hey, it is Fireman. I just came in here. Can we do a little room reset? Can I
Hey,
understand the
Spider-Man.
title? How you doing? Ti and Tiny need to go to jail. Can I get a brief little thing on why this is a topic? Just curious. Bro, you could go to what's her name?
The
Oh,
glam, the
the
glam,
University. The
the
Glam
glam
University.
university. You're gonna go to her story. You're gonna watch her
Like,
story.
you can't go to
There's
her story no more. You can't go to her story no more. Instagram had took down her
It's
post.
on the Shade Room now. It's
what?
everywhere.
I don't think it's on the
Hey,
shade
No,
room.
they don't
You
have.
said
where's it
It's
at?
Instagram did
Twitter or
what?
YouTube. It's
They
Twitter,
don't have
YouTube.
the messages on the shade room. They're not posting that.
You got to go.
Wait, but Instagram did what?
They took down. I just was trying to look on her page for
Because
updates.
Instagram's part
The
of
Oh,
it.
no,
story,
it's
the
still
Oh
story
there,
no,
though.
it's still
expired.
there. It's
Plus,
still
her
there.
story is still there. Keep going on
Who's
her
the
Oh,
girl?
story.
Who's the girl?
the
The
Glam
Glam
University.
University.
All right, I'll be there. I appreciate y'all. I just wanted to know. This is a great topic, though. I'm loving the gems. Who was that just preaching? Varsity P, man. You got some
Yes,
knowledge,
that's
and
my
I
brother.
felt like the
Hmm.
yeah,
pastor with the
you
white
just got to
tie.
follow from Fireman for sure. Let's go. Yeah,
Hmm.
No
follow
He was
problem. Thank you for
preaching.
coming,
moderators.
Thank you,
Let
Fireman.
us.
P. Thank you so much for coming and talking today. Thank you.
Definitely. We got to be
Keep
present
it
when it
going.
comes to our women. I mean,
Yeah, I knew you was gonna go crazy.
Well, this is just a small point because I'm so happy that you brought that up, Varsity P, but it just also struck me that T.I. really proclaimed himself the mayor of Atlanta in terms of some people bring up his
Ferrari, come
activism,
up,
and
Ferrari.
it's just not like he proclaimed himself that person, which I felt was totally disingenuous. Like, most organizers and activists who are actually out here doing the work, making differences in our community, they're not out here looking for praise in that work.
Remember that the realest people never say that they the realest.
Right. Look at his
That's a
face.
fact.
All you see is protect black women, but look what you doing. Shit sad.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys probably, this is Kay Cola again. I'm sure you guys probably already touched on this at some point, but I think it was also really disturbing how obsessed he was with his daughter and her body and constantly criticizing and ridiculing her about her body and her choices. And typically that's also another sign of an abuser. Men who are constantly calling women hoes and whores and things like that. They display controlling types of behavior and abusive types of behavior, and they're actually the ones who are engaging in the very things that they are ridiculing others for doing. So
100%.
Hey, me speaking. I just wanted to say shout out to Varsity P, and if everybody could really digest what that young man was just saying, because I really think that is a core issue in our culture, and a lot of what he said really dug to the core. So just please, everybody, really digest what he just said, please.
Yeah, we been brain fed a lot of bullshit.
Who's next?
I kind of want to add on to what RCP was
This
saying.
is only guys.
There was something that he said that, I agree with about
Can you
98% of
eat
what he
inside?
said. There was one thing that I didn't necessarily agree with, and he spoke about people joining these industries that have these reputations. And what I want to add was there's a lot of walks of life that aren't necessarily industries that have reputations like that, but they're places where rape is allowed. Like
I just
in
want
the
chicken.
armed forces. The armed forces is probably the only place you can go to and rape and never be punished. And y'all can look those statistics up. You saw what happened to the sister that got burnt up and all that. You saw what happened with the Spanish young lady that got raped, and then when they went
Yes.
to question him, he killed himself. The armed
Yes.
forces is done crazy with sexual assault, and there's rarely any punishment. But
Right.
also, like, rape exists in every walk of life. It happens in schools. It happens in churches. It goes to like shelters. Shelters is the place where it happens a whole lot, and
Absolutely.
we don't hear about it because people are in such, bad situations that we don't necessarily get to. Their voices aren't amplified enough. So I mean, this is something that exists in all walks of life, all throughout the world, and we just got to open up some lines of communication. As men, we got to be willing to listen. I'm 36 years old, and it was probably 8 months ago that I found out that my mother was almost raped when she
Go
was a
on mute,
teenager.
Amber.
You know what I mean? So we got to be willing to create these spaces where women are able to be honest with us and vulnerable with us outside of just sexual relationships and shit like that. You got to be willing to, if you ask every woman in your circle or in your family, I guarantee more than half of them have had situations where they've been raped, molested, or nearly raped or molested. You would be so surprised at what they tell you about what they go through. You know
And
what I
it's
mean? It
not
happens
just
in
That's
women.
church.
women and men.
I
Men
wanted to say something to what Trill was saying. Actually, it's not true. In the military, when it does happen, it's dealt with extremely quickly, and the reason why you don't hear about it is because of how fast it's taken care of. Because
Mm,
I served
mm-mm,
8 years.
mm-mm. I'm sorry,
Well,
Spade. Hold on. A
I'm
lot
just
of
saying my
times for females in the military, it is covered up a lot.
Yeah,
A
that's
I'm
lot.
gonna
Hi, I'm a female in the
I'm only
military.
speaking
Facts.
And don't be a military
Hold
I'm
spouse.
up.
only I'm only
You are not a
speaking on my
female and you do not be raped, so do not speak on
I'm
that.
I'm only speaking on people that I have dealt with and seen and been in
Mm-hmm.
those situations. So in the situations, I have a really close friend of mine. I've known her for the last 15 years. We both were stationed together in Fort Bragg, and she went through a situation where she got raped. When that happened, she came to me. We dealt with it. We took care of it, and it was taken care of quickly. And in the other situations that I was around, they were taken taken very quickly. I understand that, and I know that there are situations where it doesn't. Like the one that happened in the Air Force, the dude was had a whole sex ring, and that was dragged on for a while. But I know that
Exactly.
at least the where I was and the stuff that I was involved in or what I seen, it was taken care of very quickly.
Hey, can I ask?
Can I say something, Bree?
Hold
Bree, can
on.
I
There
say
was a
something?
female who said she was in the military. I would like for her to
Bree,
speak.
it's Jordan.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
Go
that want to
ahead.
come up, raise your hand.
I'm already up. I can't raise my hand. I'm already Go ahead, up. Jordan. Yes, sir.
Jordan, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm at work, but I'm in the military right now. I've been in for like 5 years. And in my 5 years, I've seen several people that I know personally um, go through OSI, which is like an investigation unit when it comes to sexual assault. And they literally did absolutely nothing. Usually the girls end up actually getting kicked out, like honorably discharged or whatever. Um, and then the abuser will either go down in rank or get sent to a different base. I've never seen a
Wow.
situation where a woman has said like, "Oh, I'm getting abused by this person. It's happened this many times. Here's the proof that rape kits, all that." They do not give a fuck. Spade was one you were talking, saying that
Yes.
you've had situations.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
respect you and thank you for having that woman's back and handling situations that you've specifically seen and been in. But from what I've seen at the base that I'm at, they don't really give a shit. And my friends who are different bases, they also have seen shit go
Hmm.
down where leadership don't give a fuck, and it's
So
really
you,
really sad. But it's the culture, and I'm in the Air Force, so the culture in the Air Force might be different than the Army, but they just try and keep you quiet and get you out honorably and try and get you as much disability as they can so that you're set. But people are still traumatized and have to live with that trauma for the rest of their life. So
I
you know
got
And
you.
that's
Spade,
all I
you
have to
being
I
a
say.
man
agree.
standing there was heavy because that's what this room is for. It's
Uh-huh.
women needing to have men to come to who is not
Hello.
about to be like, nah, I don't believe you. It's like,
Absolutely.
I word, that's what happened. Let's grip up and make this work. That's what they're basically saying.
Exactly. That's why I don't necessarily agree
Whereas
with the other gentleman that was speaking that said that we gotta kind of make our women feel more vulnerable. I don't think that's the actual issue. I think we are already vulnerable. I think we need more men that are really just gonna stand up for us and
no
be,
matter what.
and have that discipline no matter what. Right. It's not about us being vulnerable. We already there. We're women. It's in our nature to be vulnerable. But what are y'all niggas doing? You know what I'm saying?
We gotta, we
Y'all gotta
gotta, we
protect
gotta
And not
us.
protect them.
taking
Yeah,
We
but
gotta
that's
protect them.
that's
advantage
a
of
hard
our
thing too,
vulnerability.
though.
We
That's
gotta
a hard
protect them.
thing to say that, the the way to fix that is to have more men that stand up. I think more often than not, because women from childhood up are not something about anything that goes wrong with you is fine. It's what you're supposed to do. So that whole hush hush mentality starts from being a kid. And honestly, in the black community, most of that hush hush stuff comes from women. It comes from your mothers. It comes from your grandmothers. So to be raised like that and then to become an adult that makes themselves susceptible to that type of behavior is a whole nother thing in itself. It's not necessarily that men need to stand up per se. Women do too.
Right.
My question to the
Yeah,
lady,
mothers do,
um, just
but
real quick, my question to the ladies, like, I have a 21-year-old sister, I have a 35-year-old sister, 34 and a 36-year-old sister, right? I'm a protector. I love them. They love me. I've never, I've been here just trying to listen and just trying to like just gauge you ladies. And my question is, like, earlier I asked my sister, and I'm trying to just have a conversation. My little sister, my 21, she's gonna turn 22 in July.